one of the biggest issues that we see is that patients don't know that they have a voice in all of this, or that they can speak up, or they can ask questions, or they can get a second, third, fourth opinion, or even fight their own insurance company. That's the difficulty that we see, is that most folks think that, because the doctor said X, that's what has to happen. When in fact, no, that's not what has to happen.
Hello and greetings and welcome. My name is Danyata, and I want to welcome you to Let Care Speak. And today I am joined by Matt Toresco, a patient advocate, consultant, and the founder of Archo. Matt's work focuses on helping healthcare organizations, nonprofits, and life sciences companies better understand and engage patient communities. His journey into patient advocacy is deeply personal,
Mm.
shaped by his own experience navigating the healthcare system after a serious neck injury and years of misdiagnoses. Today, Matt works to elevate patient voices and build stronger partnerships between patients, advocates, and healthcare organizations. Let's give it up for Matt.
Thank you,
Yes.
Donata. I appreciate it.
Yes, and how are you today?
I'm doing well. I mean, it's the first day of rain that we've had in the Charleston area in God knows how many weeks, and you forget how much you can feel it, you know? But other than that, I'm doing
Yes.
fine.
Yes, yes. Now you said you're in Charleston. Is that
Yeah.
Charleston, South Carolina?
Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
expecting it to be like 90 degrees down there. Am I
I'll
close?
tell you, it is 85.
Okay.
But it's a rainy day today. And, we all complain that we don't have the beautiful sun every day, but hey,
Yeah.
we make do. I'm a Jersey boy, born and raised, and we came down here in 2017,
Okay.
to get rid of winter ultimately on my back.
Oof.
I got sick
Ah,
of
yes.
the neighbors giving me looks when my wife was out shoveling snow and I was is stuck inside. It wasn't a good look.
I hear you. Yes, and well, yes. Well, welcome to the South. I'm from the South, but I'm currently in
Yeah.
Maryland. So, Matt, I just want you to know that I really appreciate you joining us today at Let Care Speak.
Yeah.
And, in your message, you mentioned the patient advocacy landscape and partnership strategies, which really caught my attention. But before we dive into that, I'd love to start with your story
Yeah.
because I think it's important for the audience to understand the person behind the mission.
Yeah. My story is a long one. And it's one that I hate to say is long, but it is. I broke my neck playing lacrosse in college in 2005. And, you know, I was that kid that grew up in a family of athletes, and we pushed each other, and we were in the gym since we were 6, and, you know, always born to be college athletes. And my freshman year, I blew out my right knee, missed a whole year, because it was the second time I had torn my right knee, and it went ACL and LCL. So multiple surgeries, had to get over all of that, and I did, and I got back. I got on the field for my first game, and then the following week, April 5th of 2005, inter squad scrimmage, went for a ground ball, top of my head, connected with a teammate's hip from Fredericksburg, Maryland, and the rest is history. Ultimately, I went numb on the field, got feeling back. I wouldn't say I even just went numb. I went blackout. I could hear nothing. I could see hazy, but I couldn't feel anything. And then everything came back, and I got up, and that was, the wrong thing to do, but it was what I was innately trained to do. Got up, started walking to the sideline. The kid who had hit me came over and tapped me on the back. Are you okay? And it dropped my legs out from underneath me again. And that was when all of the trainers came running in. And unfortunately, that turned into 8 hours on a wooden backboard, X-rays, CT, MRI, all missed it. And I got another 5 months until they recognized that I had broken C6, C7, and T1 in my spine and blew out all of the ligaments holding the spine in place.
Mm.
Um, I should be paralyzed from the neck down with use of my thumbs, is what they tell me. And then by the grace of God, I'm whole. But what it started me on is what I call healthcare hell. Um, it was surgery after medication, after medication, after doctor, 26 different doctors in 18 years. The only option that they kept prescribing was opiates. So for 18 years, I was on nothing but opiates as I had, um, in total, 11 surgeries, 4 on my spine, 4 on my elbows, because of overzealous hand surgeons. And I will say that the positive that came out of that was that it showed me the realities of the healthcare system. Mind you, all the while I was working in healthcare, I was working in the healthcare industry, pharma, biotech, um, genomics companies, working with hospitals, working with insurance companies. So I knew how to fight the fights that needed to be had, and I knew where to look for resources and tools. But at the end of it, I was just as lost as everybody else, and that shouldn't be. And that's what I fight for every day now.
Mm. Wow, that is a remarkable story, and I just have to
Mm.
say hallelujah to that,
Yes,
'cause
yes.
yes,
Amen.
nothing but God. Yes.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And, to put a bow on it, I found a local patient advocate, because again, I grew up in a household where my mom was a nurse. So we
Mhm.
were exposed to the healthcare system very, very early. And unfortunately, we talk about social determinants of health. One of those, from my perspective, is thinking you know more than you do. And I was convinced that there was no one that could help me because I had so many surgeons who said that they would be able to help that didn't. So I had ultimately given up hope, until a friend of mine said, I think it was actually my therapist who said, I want you to see this other guy. And, by the way, this is probably a HIPAA violation. He's one of my patients too. I was telling him about you. I just think it would be good if you had somebody else. So another set of eyes. So I went to him. He got me connected to the right physician, the right surgeon up in Manhattan while I was here in Charleston. And I had surgery May 15th of 2023 that got me out of pain for good. I can't look down, but my entire cervical spine from C2 all the way down to T4 is fused. Gnarly x-rays, but I woke up out of pain. And I had a
Mhm.
second lease on life. And actually, my wife and I still celebrate, May 15th every year as my rebirth day. So
Yes, well, happy early rebirth day.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so, Matt, was that doctor the Ali Sharif guy?
hmm That was
Okay.
that was my chiropractor. That was my local patient advocate. Dr. Sharif, by all accounts, I never should have seen because as someone who's broken their neck, the last thing you want is a chiropractor, right?
Mhm,
What's this Eastern medicine cracking stuff? Don't mess with my spine, right? Um,
mhm.
and the difference with him was that he just slowed down. The very first appointment with him was 2.5 hours of him just asking me questions and trying to understand all of the surgeries I had and what I'd been through and what my goals were and, what a day in the life for me was like. And I knew things were going to be different because of that, right? That was not the normal that I would say anybody these days experiences. But it was also his knowledge of Dr. Dan Rue up in Manhattan at the time. I think he's still there at Columbia in Manhattan, and he is one of the very. I think there's only 3 worldwide that are cervical specialists only. Most spine surgeons do the entire spine. He just focuses on the cervical spine, and with that knowledge, he has taught he's created and taught many different methods. And I knew it was going to be different with him too, because when I went in to meet with him, he had 6 fellows with him. I felt like I was a study case, right?
Mhm.
Um, the hardest news for me to take from him was, listen, I can fix it, which I had heard before. I was very apprehensive that he could fix it, but you need to be off of opiates for 6 months before I touch you.
Mm-mm.
It pissed me off.
I can
I was
imagine.
livid about that. And it took me honestly 3 or 4 weeks until I decided that I was going to start that journey. Mind you, I had been through 2 bouts of acute withdrawal before that. And I knew what those sleepless weeks look like. I mean, weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, no sleep, because my arms would spasm out in front of me as I was laying down. And you quickly learn and realize why people take their life in chronic pain. There's, there's no outlet. No one's listening. No one believes you. Um, and I'm, by the grace of God, I will always say that not only am I a believer, but I've lived it. Um, my wife sat up with me every single night and just helped me breathe through it and kept me mentally there. So that I couldn't find the easy escape button. And, it led to a successful surgery, and it leads to us speaking today.
Mm, your wife's a keeper, Matt.
She is. That she is.
And I love now that you're paying this forward.
Yep. You
So
have to.
yes, yes,
The way
yes.
that I see it is your mess is your message.
Mm,
I heard that from Carrie Ann Lima, who is, I want to say, she's not the first female billionaire, but one of the top five, one of the first five. She started a makeup line that was purchased for $2 billion after being told no over a decade by people saying, you're a large Hispanic woman. No one's going to buy makeup from you. And she kept at it and kept pushing and was ultimately purchased for over $1 billion because of that. And it is so true. That which you go through, you're meant to go through to then help those that were the person you once were. And that's what I try to do is guide the healthcare system as it is today, this conglomerate of businesses. It's the easiest way to think of it, that don't have the patient as the center of what they do. They have themselves or they have investors as really those who they respond to and react to. And I'm working as hard as I can to get the patient back to the center of that equation.
mm. And that actually answers the question I was going to pose to you.
Mhm.
What the biggest misunderstanding that you encounter about patient advocates and why that matters. But
Yeah.
yeah,
The
you
the
actually answered
biggest
that beautifully. Hmm.
I would say the biggest misunderstanding in healthcare is, and I always say this, the biggest unused data set in healthcare is the patient voice and the patient's lived
Mm,
experience. We don't, doctors,
mhm,
this is not to fault doctors. Doctors have been dealt a very bad hand by the way our healthcare system has changed since 2005 ish, 2010. If you take into account
mhm,
ACA, um, ACA gave far too much benefits to the insurance companies, um, and far too much money. In fact, you'll see that United Healthcare, for example, I think by last count was up 600% in their value since the ACA, because you're now guaranteeing that everyone's going to buy your product, and you also don't have to worry about the cost of it because the government's going to help pay for it until now. Right, until the enhanced subsidies that just expired, that was extra money that was going directly to the insurance companies. So we spend all of this money, we're getting no better outcomes for patients, and all the while patients are truly ignored.
mhm.
Right? It's
Absolutely,
so frustrating.
absolutely. Yes, and actually, because you do work with both patients and organizations, Now, what's the biggest mistake, or in your opinion, of course, what's the biggest mistake you see patients making when they're navigating healthcare? And then I'm going to turn the question
Mhm.
inward. What's the biggest mistake you see organizations making when they're trying to engage with patients?
Sure. So if you don't mind, I was going to start with the organization side because I think that
Okay.
just coming from where we are in the discussion, the biggest mistake that organizations are making is that the patient has nothing to offer. Or if we look at the pharmaceutical space or biotech space, that the patient in their world is actually not even considered their customer. The doctor is. The doctor doesn't use the medication. They're not the one that has to go and pick up the prescription or the refill. So that's a big problem, is that the end user in healthcare is not seen as the customer. On the patient side, I would say that one of the biggest issues that we see is that patients don't know that they have a voice in all of this, or that they can speak up, or they can ask questions, or they can get a second, third, fourth opinion, or even fight their own insurance company. That's the difficulty that we see, is that most folks think that, because the doctor said X, that's what has to happen. When in fact, no, that's not what has to happen. Do you feel that that's right for you?
Hmm. And so, based on your experience with this advocacy right now,
Hmm.
what do you think that it will actually take for patients to realize the power they have behind their medical care?
Education first and foremost. Um, what I try to do is educate the patient community that at some point, even if you're not a patient today, at some point you're going to be one. So you should probably learn about this space, right? It's 1/5 of our economy as well. So might as well learn about it. The education, though, the educational needs from the simple, what is insurance and how does it work, to really seeing healthcare for what it is, which is an economic transaction, pure and simple. It's an economic transaction. Once you can see it for that, then that should put the patient back in the driver's seat of, am I getting the value for my money? And if not, you can go somewhere else.
And to piggyback that,
Yeah.
one of the topics you've mentioned is, since we were talking about the power and education, health equity. And
Hmm.
I know that from your blog, you've written about how the zip code can determine
Yeah.
health outcomes. So, yeah, do you mind unpacking that for our audience and
Yeah.
why geography matters, yeah, with healthcare?
It's such a misunderstood and misconstrued thing by, I won't single any one person out, but everybody. Um, People got really, haughty when it came to, oh, we're only focused on this population or that population. Well, those populations are historically disengaged or disenfranchised from engaging in their own care or being educated on what's available. And what we've seen, give you an example, just outside of Columbia, South Carolina, we're local to me, just a zip code there, has the highest rate of diabetic related amputation.
Mm.
So when we talk about why does zip code matter? Well, in that zip code, there is a dearth of access to fresh produce. There is terrible school systems. The patient population um, is not integrated into the healthcare system. You have a large academic healthcare system that is not representative of the local community. So you have this innate distrust that forms. And if someone doesn't work to break down those barriers and those walls, then they just stay up. And that's why health equity matters. That's why every company in healthcare should be focused on it. It has nothing to do with we're going to give special treatment to anybody. It has to do with everyone should have the same opportunities for health. Some need more help than others, and that's okay. No,
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
we have to have these conversations. You know,
Mhm.
it was such a sad turn of events, and I don't care where people fall politically, but with the new administration coming in, we stopped focusing on health equity because the term DE&I was now
Mhm.
outlawed, right? Diversity and equity and inclusion. Somehow that was not allowed. Okay. Well, that then meant anyone who doesn't look like me does not get any extra help that they need, or that we can even have that discussion of, do you need assistance? Because let me tell you, in South Carolina, there's plenty of people who look like me that need extra help, but we aren't having the discussion. And that's what we need to help to empower companies and people to do, is to help their neighbor flat out. Do you need assistance? It's okay. You don't have to put up a front for me. Do you need help? And as a patient, being okay asking for help.
Mm. The asking for help.
It's a hard
That's
thing
a
to do.
big ask.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, yes, it is, and just to add to that, I guess I kinda consider myself an advocate as well,
Sure.
just maybe more so from a technical perspective,
Yeah.
but, you know, what role can we play to continue to address this issue with health equity?
Well, people don't recognize how much power they have at the voting booth. It comes down to, are you knowledgeable enough about a given topic? Have you done any time reading about it? I'm a big believer in reading and how much you can learn in just 20 minutes of reading a day. Pick the topic. I don't care what it is. There's so much that you can glean in just 20 minutes that will make you that much better off. And we need, may it be companies, may it be health tech companies, to focus on these challenges and problems. As I've heard it best put by a local patient advocate here in the Charleston community, we get so focused on the thing, we get so focused on the problem, but we don't look at the thing behind the thing. What's causing the problem, right? And I'll give you a healthcare example. When we think about patients who aren't compliant in their medications, they're not taking them, or, give you an example with diabetes. Some patients with diabetes end up rationing their insulin because they don't have the money to be able to afford the next bottle, right? And they're viewed as non-compliant. They're just not willing to do what they need to do to keep themselves healthy, rather than stopping at the problem is they're non-compliant. Why are they non-compliant? What's the challenge? What's the problem? Is it economic? Is it that they just can't find a job, that they can't keep their lights on in their house? They can't keep their medication refrigerated, which most insulins need to be refrigerated, right? So that now exposes the patient to so many other challenges. And if we aren't doing that work of asking questions of the patient community, then who are we really serving?
Mm, amen by that.
Right?
Mm, I like that. And so now wanna look on a larger scale. We're
Yeah.
looking at the organizations here.
Hmm.
Just since we're on that topic. And so, in your opinion, Matt, what are some concrete implementable steps that organizations can take right now to help improve the outcomes and strengthen or center the
Hmm.
patient voices?
Number one, they have to look inside and they have to view how they're using the patient voice at this point. Are they? Or is it a checkbox? So many institutions use the patient voice as a validation point rather than the starting point. And that's the internal work that a company or a health system, a hospital has to do is where is the patient voice currently being used and how do we get to it earlier? Because a patient will tell you a problem is coming before any dashboard will, right? And
Mhm.
it's imperative if we're going to, which we need to do, lower our healthcare costs. We can't keep spending 1/5 of our GDP on healthcare. It's not good policy. It's not good economically. It's not good for the benefit of our country. But if we, again, the only way we can reduce those costs is by bringing the patient community along with us, knowing where they are and filling the gaps of bridging those gaps ultimately with advocates, with education, with tools and resources. But if we're not yet even going and talking to them, we're never going to get there. I mean, think about this, Danyata.
Ooh. Mhm.
When we're about the same age, I would say, when we were
Mhm.
young, let's go back to the 90s.
Okay.
Most of the time, your hospital CEOs were on the local radio, especially on Fridays. They were talking about different community events that they were running. When was the last time you ever heard of a hospital CEO on the radio?
Never.
You don't. You don't.
Right.
The
Yeah.
hospital used to be the center of the community. Now it's not
Mhm.
because they've become just revenue generators. Rather, it's a sad state of affairs to think that what a hospital typically is looking at numbers wise is what percent of their beds are filled. And they want an 85% rate or more. 85% is about the bare minimum to keep the doors open, right? So you're not worried about keeping patients healthy. You're worried about capturing them when they get sick.
Mhm.
Different discussion, right?
Yeah.
So we've allowed healthcare to move into sick care rather than keeping you healthy.
That's the word, Matt.
Hmm.
Wow. You have really given us a lot to think about.
Thank you.
Wow. No, yeah, yeah, thank you. And so, now I actually would like to pivot
Mhm.
to the work that you're doing at Arco
Sure.
and how people can engage with you and your mission. Because you're doing some amazing things for sure. And I
We're
just
doing a
I just
lot.
want to congratulate you on that. That's
Thank you.
job well done, commendable job.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, I would love to know more about Arco and
Yeah.
how you built it and what exactly was the problem you were trying to solve when you started Arco?
The original problem I was trying to solve was, as an athlete, the scoreboard always didn't lie, right? It told you whether you were winning or losing. And
Mhm,
seeing the value of patient advocacy in my own life and knowing about it in the industry, knowing about the fact that every pharmaceutical company, biotech company, med device company has a patient advocacy function. That sole mission has nothing to do with their products. It will serve the disease state typically that they are creating products for, but it's their job to get out to the patient community, engage with them, develop tools and resources that are needed. Truly, at times, it's just letting communities know that there's different specialists that you should be seeing, right?
mhm,
But before I built Arco, there was no scoreboard for how good is your patient advocacy function. And that was the mentality that I brought to Arco was I'm going to develop market research that's going to tell you, are you up to snuff or not? And we're getting that feedback from the customers of those teams, which are your disease state patient advocacy groups, the nonprofits that we hope everyone supports. But, let's be honest, it's a tough economy. the majority of their money comes from pharma and biotech because that's just the way it is at this point. So, but again, they're doing great work. They are the ones educating patient communities on screening campaigns and where to get help and what types of doctors should treat X, Y, and Z diseases. That's the work that they do. What I try to serve is how do we get pharma to do that better, to go deeper, to spend more money on that, and to spend less money on things like commercials. We don't need the commercials. Between you and I and everyone listening, we don't need the commercials. Just another slogan or jingle that gets stuck in your head for no reason, right? You and your physician will make the right choice for you on what medication you're going to get.
Yes. And so who would you say is benefiting most from Arco's work right now?
Those that benefit the most from our work right now are, in my opinion, the disease state nonprofits, because we try to raise their voice and their impact,
Okay.
and in turn get them more funding and more focus. Now, at the same time, these advocacy teams, of course, get the value of our work as well, being that you have to understand in a business model where no one is tying any revenue to your work, it's hard to stay alive, right? But by law, literally by law, they cannot say that they have had any commercial impact on the business. That is not their job. But if you have a C-suite executive who's only looking at the bottom line and not understanding how doing all of these things will help the company in the long run, not only in the perception in the community, but in its ability to, as I think about it, if you think about a fishbowl, your commercial team is fishing in a fishbowl. Those are the patients that know help exists, that know where to get it, that know the type of doctor to see, and that know that they need help. The job of advocacy and advocacy groups and independent advocates like myself is to find the fish that don't know that there's a bowl and bring them in. So if advocacy is doing a good job, the commercial opportunities will be there. But without advocacy, we're not expanding the population in the bowl. And that's where, if we go back to where we were with the health equity discussion, that's where, again, I am in the data that we run, we are seeing populations slip back from the advancements that we had made. We have epidemic level HIV infection in certain areas of this country that we had tamped down in the early 2000s. Not to mention measles rates, especially here in South Carolina, skyrocketing. Again, all because health literacy, this mentality of what is the average age, so to speak, of how you think about healthcare. Well, that's at about a third or fourth grade level. We have to do the work to increase that. And that's where people like me and you both are coming into the market with tools to help empower patients to look at their own health, to look at how they're being treated, to identify ways that they can get the care that they need, but also get there, right? That's the missing piece, which is why both you and I think have come together on this mission, is that we're trying to fill that void. And it's a void that should have been filled, you would think, from the start, but it's only getting wider.
Like,
It is. We are both going to
okay.
do our damnedest to ensure that, and I put this out in publications and articles. Listen, if the system breaks, if the healthcare world that we have right now, the healthcare environment breaks, so be it. But I'm going to apply pressure and I'm going to empower patients to be more active than they've ever been. I hope that the system recognizes that it needs to change, because there's far too many executives that I've come across that have said, it's not our fault. It's the system. It's the system. Aren't you
Mm.
part of the system?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to point fingers at everybody else to fix it. And we're the little guys that are coming in saying, we'll help fix it, but I need you on board. I need you to invest. I need you to do this, right? And it's going to take people like us to fix it, because as you've said, the haves in this world already have. They're not looking down.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a point in our careers, both of us, that we know where we've gotten, but we also know where we want to go. And we can still look back and pull the people we used to be along with us. And we see that's a good thing. So it's going to take people like us. It's going to take the entrepreneurs of this world to get that level footing back up. So I commend you for the work you're
Solidarity.
doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That makes me, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Bit by bit, piece by piece.
You feel like you take 3 steps forward and 5 steps backward, but you know what? That's still +2.
Right?
Or no, I guess not. You
Well,
take
yeah,
5
I
steps
know what you're
forward,
saying.
you take 3 steps backward, you're left with 2, right? But
Yes, I know what
it's
you mean.
take it inch by inch. As you think about just where we are, like you said, we are at the ends of capitalism right now. But we get to control that which happens from here. And I think it's going to be those that are willing to build in this new AI environment that can have the most impact, because we can bridge those gaps, and we need to. No one else is doing it, right? That's what keeps me going. And every time, this is, also me as a believer, every time I've gotten to a point in my business where I'm like, man, I'm not going to be able to keep the lights on. I got maybe a week left. God comes through every single time. And I was just at a point, no joke, 3 weeks ago, that I didn't know how we were going to keep going. I didn't know how I was going to even keep my house. And within the last 3 weeks, I have more business than I know what to do with, because I finally surrendered. And I know I can't do it all on my own. Not meant to, but I get, bullheaded. My nickname is Meathead. And sometimes I lose my focus on where it's supposed to be. So that's
Mm-hmm.
God pulling me
You're
back
human.
to where I'm supposed to be and showing me, don't worry, I got you, but don't get off the leash,
Mm-hmm.
So I tell you that to hopefully encourage you, though, as well, that this is a wild, wild ride in entrepreneurship. But your mission is so valuable, and so many people need it. And if you're
Thank you.
successful, fantastic. If you're not, as many of us aren't, there's been so many things I've failed in. You learn something to take somewhere else, And honestly, I'm now
Mm-hmm.
in the last 3 weeks trying to figure out, where do I find somebody who gets what I'm doing that can join me, because I can't do it alone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's how crazy. And you said it our first time we met, #small world, right? I'm a big believer that
Yeah.
God puts people together that he wants together for a reason,
Same. Same here.
right?
When you least expect it. And I tell
Always.
you, God always just amazes me. And now as my aunt used to say, just be on the conveyor belt. And
Yeah.
these days I'm just on the conveyor belt, like, all right, what you got? I'm ready.
I'm a
Just
big,
here I am.
I love that. Be on the conveyor belt, because
Mhm.
the way that it was always described to me was, listen, you're in the
Yes.
car, but you're not in the driving seat. You're not driver. You're just a passenger, right? Same mentality,
Mhm.
right? But can you let go of the steering wheel,
Mhm.
right? And that's
That part.
ultimately what I tell
That
myself every
surrender.
day is just surrender, give it up.
Absolutely.
And
And
the more I
and
will say this,
what's
one
that saying? Yeah.
I was just gonna say the funny thing to me, and being a believer, I can tell you this. I told God a week ago, you know what? I don't know what you want me to do, but I pray that you allow me to remain open to those that you want me to help and that you send them my way. And I've had more conversations about God in my business in the last 6 days than I have had in the last 4 years of running this business. And I've had more
Mhm.
opportunities come from it than any other time in my career, which tells me that though we might be at the end of our capitalistic run here in the United States, good still prevails over evil as long as good is willing to put up a fight.
Ooh, we are having church. This has turned into church. We need to
Yes,
pass the collection plate.
exactly.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You are so right about that. And I'm just so amazed. Yeah. Yeah, I just have to say I never imagined that our paths should cross, but
I know.
look at
They
us.
should.
Here we are.
I'm a lacrosse player. Are you kidding me?
Oh, okay, that's right. That's right. And you were at the Ohio State, but
That's
yeah,
right.
I'm in Locust Point of Baltimore.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are, yeah. So over there.
Got it.
Hmm.
So the gentleman who broke my neck went on to
Hmm.
become a doctor of physical therapy and runs,
Oh wow.
I don't know how many locations he's got now, but I bring it up because he's in your area. Rehab to Perform is the name of his business. And Josh Funk is his name. And the Funk family are big in the Fredericksburg area. But you want to talk about another God guided thing. He broke my neck and now he's a physical therapist.
I know. Look at that.
Right. Doing
I'm just
amazing
so in awe
things
how,
with that too.
yes.
So
Hmm. Absolutely. Just the interconnection
yeah.
with with us. Yeah,
Do you
just
mind
God's
if I
people.
flip the
So
script on you here and take over your podcast?
oh, okay, talk to me. What's up?
I got a
I don't
question for
mind.
you.
Sure.
Being in IT and
Mhm.
and being in that academic world, why healthcare?
Lived experience. I have been in and out of the medical system since 2010.
Mm,
And at that point, I was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease,
hmm.
stage 5,
Yeah,
caused by lupus nephritis. And that right there shook me to my core.
sure.
Because at first, I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
Because, I'm in my 20s, I'm still living life,
ESRD
and
in your
I'm
20s.
being, yeah, yes, and I'm being told, you have to go on emergency dialysis while we give you a catheter for peritoneal dialysis, and
Mm,
you got to do all of this stuff. So, whatever they told me, I just complied. I just said,
sure.
okay, whatever you say. And I don't think I really grasped just how serious the toll or the my health had taken. and being young, I still partied. And even though I had this catheter, I traveled all over the world, and I was able to, coordinate with Baxter with my dialysis supplies
Yep.
and all of these things. And it just didn't register that,
God bless you
hey,
for being able
Danyata.
to do that and coordinate that.
Yes, yes, it was. it was all my mindset. That's really what it was because I thought, you know what? Okay, I have this condition, but I'm still going to live. And
Mm-hmm.
God has brought me this far. God's not going to abandon me.
Nope.
Sure, I may be a little wayward, but I'm I'm still here. And
Yes.
so you know it but it never registered to me that end stage renal disease could result in death. That never clicked. That because that was not my mindset.
But
And
you're
I really
nailing
didn't know
that's
how
such a
serious it
big
was.
thing. That is such a big thing.
Mhm.
Mindset. You know how many people I've worked with in the oncology
Absolutely.
space and cancer that were the best way I've heard to put a friend of mine was diagnosed with end stage renal cancer and was basically told, get your affairs in order. And the response that he had was, thank you for your opinion, but I don't believe that. And that's the mentality that
Amen.
he carried through. And he's still alive and kicking and actually beat it because of his mindset. And you bring up such an important
I love
topic
it.
for any listener. Healthcare is messy. It's a mess. It's a maze at times,
Mhm.
but your mindset will dictate your outcome. And if you want to find a way,
Absolutely.
you'll find a way. If you want to beat insurance, you can beat insurance. I'll teach you how, right? But at
Mhm.
the same time, if you throw your hands up and say, I can't do this, it'll never get better, you're also right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, in addition to the mindset, that also includes having faith.
Yes.
And you may not subscribe to a God or
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, but
Yeah.
believing in a higher power, that there is something out there greater than you to give you that hope
Yes.
is also, instrumental with healing and
Mm.
your mindset as well. So
Yeah.
I also want to point that out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so vitally important. I don't think we do enough listening for God. We do a lot of talking
Mhm.
at times to him. But how often do you sit just silent and still?
Mhm. A lot.
Sometimes because you have the recipe, you've got it down. It took
Yeah.
me a very long time to learn that. I actually had to get out
Mhm.
of Charleston and I went on a men's hike up in the mountains of Tennessee. No phone allowed. Just you, 15 other dudes in the woods. This is before I started my business because I was convinced I could never do this myself. I'm not good enough. And on the very last day of this hike, I woke up very vividly hearing God tell me, if you don't think you're good enough, let me show you. I quit my job the next day and started this business.
Oh, look at that.
Yep.
That is
And
very bold. That is
he's
very
showing me
audacious.
every step of the way.
Mhm. Mm. Mm. I was a little stubborn with mine, and and
Rightly so.
I was, but once it happened, I got there. Yeah, yeah. So in my case, God just kind of had to just push me. I was like, "Oh, okay, I got it now. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. I know I'm slow, but I got it now."
See, and I
So
think this is part of our gifts that God gives us as individuals. And I can tell this about you, that you know who's hurting and's hiding it. I get that sense from you that you can just pull things out of people.
Mhm.
Um, I would just encourage you to do that more. Um, it's a gift of mine that I kept tamped down for too long. And when I say too long, I mean till last year. Okay. Um, but I had a call this morning with a gentleman who, by all accounts, I'm supposed to be coaching him in how he's supposed to be doing things for a company. right? How he's supposed to be presenting, how he's supposed to be carrying himself, all these sorts of things. We ended up having a 90-minute conversation about his childhood and about his mentality and the what runs through his head and where he's getting his validation. And of course, that conversation circled to God as well. And I've never built stronger relationships than those built on him.
Amen.
Watch what he can do with you. Watch what he can do with your business. It's going to be amazing. And I'm so excited to watch.
Likewise.
Yep.
Ah, I love this. I love
Me too.
this.
I'll do these calls every
Yes,
day, right? Any final
absolutely.
questions you have for me?
Uh, Gosh, I have so many, but yeah, no, I think that we should start closing it up
Sure.
because I actually do have so I'm running a little late. I have something at 4:30, but
No
it's
worries.
okay. No
Yeah,
big
yeah.
deal.
Let's
Um,
lock, let's lock it,
so
lock it up.
yeah, okay, for our audience, whether they're patients, caregivers, healthcare professionals, or organizational leaders, how can they engage with your work?
Mm.
Or how can they contact you to
How can you
learn
find
more?
me? So they can
Mhm.
find me at archo.io. That's ARCHO.io. It's Latin for build, if anyone's wondering. So we have Archo. They can also find me at matttoresco.com. So my name, full name. And Matt Toresco is also my social medias as well. So Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of it. I'm on all of them. And really, if you follow me, what I'm trying to do is give some insights and education to the general public on key things happening in healthcare that people should be aware of. And just, again, just to witness how different levers get pulled and what that means. So I highly encourage you to follow on my websites. Both you can sign up for my newsletter as well. It's a monthly synopsis of what's happening in the healthcare landscape and a weekly blog on things I think are either they A, need to change, or B, people should be aware of. So if you want to get healthcare education, those are where you can find me and how we can work together.
Beautiful. Love it. And if someone listening today wants to be a better advocate for
Yeah.
themselves or their loved ones in healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
what's one thing they can start doing immediately?
Know that you can ask questions. Know that you can challenge. I heard it put this way by a patient advocate, or actually by a patient who's become a patient advocate. If you're not getting kicked out of a doctor's office, are you really advocating for yourself? Right? It's okay to act unruly when necessary. Now, I'm not telling you to go and start rage paging your doctor, but know that if you are in with a loved one or you're in the doctor's appointment yourself, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask them to give you an example of what they mean or to ask for a different explanation. That's your right. And if a doc's not willing to give it to you, find another one.
I agree. I agree. If you're silenced, that team
Yep,
is not for you.
exactly.
And I'm speaking from personal experience.
I'm sure. I am sure.
Hmm.
And I would say
Yes,
too,
absolutely.
if if you've hit if you feel like you've gotten to the end of your doc's knowledge base, and I'll give you an example. The surgeon that I saw in 2022 who did a surgery before I had another one in 2023 said, I did what I felt was right and it didn't help you. There's really nothing else that we can do. No, there's nothing else he could do. It was for me to then find another doctor because I had reached the limit of his knowledge. So know that just because one doctor doesn't know what to do with you does not mean that you are this case that no one's going to know what to do with. You just have to find somebody else.
Mhm.
The last thing I'll say for those folks that are
Mhm.
out there that want to know, where do I find an advocate, anything like that, how do I get the support I need, you can check out a website that I've built called advocatebridge.org. What it is a listing of all of the disease state advocacy organizations. So you had discussed lupus nephritis. All of the lupus focused patient advocacy organizations are listed there. And it has all of the list serves for all of the independent patient advocates as well. Folks like you and I that are for hire, that can be an assistant to you in your medical journey.
Thank you so much for that information, Matt. And
Yeah.
all that information will be available in the description of this podcast. So be sure to check that information out. Please don't be shy. It's here to help
That's
and
right.
empower you.
That's right.
And Matt, wow, this has been such a thoughtful conversation today. Just
Thank you.
amazing. I just want you to know I appreciate the work that you're doing to elevate patient voices and improve healthcare systems.
Hey,
For
I look
joining
forward to
Let Care
remaining in
Speak
touch
today. Yeah,
and watching us both build the healthcare environment we know everyone deserves.
absolutely. Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dunyata.